The galaxy had known peace for 3,000 years. The Galactic Consortium of United Species had worked hard to build this peace. They had laws, they had treaties, they had diplomatic channels that solved every problem without violence. War was a forgotten concept to most species. It was something that primitive civilizations did before they evolved. The Consortium believed they had moved beyond such barbaric behavior. When the first human ship appeared at the edge of Consortium space, the aliens were excited. A new species meant new ideas, new cultures, and new friends. The ship was small and clearly primitive by galactic standards. It moved slowly through space, its engines barely capable of faster-than-light travel. The Consortium sent their best diplomats to make contact. Ambassador of the species was chosen to lead the welcoming committee. She had welcomed 17 new species into the Consortium. She knew how to handle first contact situations. Her team prepared gifts, translation devices, and cultural exchange packages. They approached the human vessel with bright signals of peace. The humans responded with equal enthusiasm. Their leader, a woman named Captain Sarah, seemed genuinely happy to meet other intelligent life. She explained that humanity had been searching the stars for decades, hoping they were not alone in the universe. The first meeting went perfectly. The humans were curious, friendly, and eager to learn about galactic society. Captain brought cultural items from Earth. She shared music, art, and stories from human history. The Consortium diplomats were charmed by human creativity. These creatures had such interesting perspectives on life. Their art showed deep emotions. Their music moved even species that processed sound differently. The Consortium representatives returned to their council with glowing reports. Earth was invited to join the Consortium as an observer species. This was the first step toward full membership. Humanity would learn the laws and customs of galactic civilization. They would prove themselves worthy of joining the community of advanced species. The process usually took about 50 years, but everyone expected it to go smoothly. Humans sent their diplomats to the great stations of the Consortium. They attended meetings and learned protocols. They studied the history of galactic peace. Human representatives always smiled and nodded. They asked thoughtful questions about conflict resolution. They seemed genuinely impressed by how the Consortium had eliminated war. 5 years passed. Humanity established trade routes with several species. They exchanged technology and ideas freely. Human goods became popular across many worlds. Their entertainment media spread through the galaxy. Stories about human courage and determination resonated with many species. Everything seemed perfect. Then the Dominion attacked. They were an old enemy. They had refused to join the Consortium centuries ago. They preferred conquest over cooperation. For hundreds of years, they had stayed in their own territory, occasionally testing Consortium borders but never launching a full invasion. The peace had held because no one wanted to fight. But they had been building strength. They had developed new weapons. They had grown their fleets. When they finally struck, they struck hard. 12 Consortium worlds fell in the first week. The ships were brutal and efficient. They destroyed everything in their path. The Consortium Council met in emergency session. They debated. They discussed. They sent strongly worded messages to the leadership. They proposed peace talks and diplomatic solutions. They responded by burning 3 more worlds. Ambassador watched in horror as her was threatened. The Consortium had no military to speak of. They had peacekeeping vessels but nothing designed for actual combat. Their shields were weak. Their weapons were outdated. Peace had made them soft and vulnerable. Humanity requested permission to address the council. Captain, now Admiral, stood before the gathered representatives of hundreds of species. She spoke calmly and clearly. She told them that humanity understood peace. Humans valued it deeply. They had joined the Consortium because they believed in the dream of a galaxy without war. But she also told them something else. Humans had not always been peaceful. Their history was written in blood and fire. They had fought each other for thousands of years before reaching the stars. When humans left Earth, they did not forget their past. They did not pretend that violence was impossible. They prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. Admiral explained that humanity had built a fleet, not the small exploration vessels the galaxy had seen, not the trade ships that moved human goods between worlds. She called it the Dark Fleet. The council members murmured in confusion. They had monitored human activity. They had seen no military construction. Admiral smiled and explained that humans were very good at keeping secrets. The Dark Fleet had been built in hidden shipyards deep within human territory. It had been training for 20 years, long before humans made first contact. Some council members were angry. This violated the spirit of peace. This showed that humans had never truly trusted the consortium. Admiral did not apologize. She asked a simple question instead. Did the council want humanity to use the Dark Fleet against them? The debate lasted 3 days. Some species argued that accepting military help would destroy everything the consortium stood for. Others pointed out that the consortium would not exist at all if the one. In the end, they voted to accept human assistance. Admiral sent a single message to Earth, 3 words that changed galactic history forever. Release the fleet. What emerged from human space terrified the scouts who first detected it. The Dark Fleet was massive, hundreds of warships designed purely for destruction. They had no elegant curves or graceful lines like consortium vessels. These ships were brutal and angular. They looked like weapons given form. The flagship was called the Prometheus. It was 5 kilometers long, covered in weapons batteries and armor plating. Admiral commanded from its bridge. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. Every human officer had trained for war that they hoped would never come. The first battle happened near a world called that had 20 ships preparing to invade. The Dark Fleet arrived with 30. The engagement lasted 4 hours. When it ended, every vessel was destroyed. Not one human ship was lost. The commanders could not understand what was happening. The humans fought with a ferocity they had never seen. Human tactics were unpredictable and aggressive. They did not fight like a species that had known peace. They fought like predators who had never forgotten how to hunt. Word spread through the galaxy. The peaceful humans had revealed their true nature. Some species were horrified. Others were grateful. The Consortium Council watched battle reports with growing amazement. Humanity was pushing the back faster than anyone thought possible. Admiral did not just win battles. She broke the war machine piece by piece. She targeted their supply lines. She destroyed their shipyards. She cut off their communications. Within 6 months, the Dominion was crumbling. The leadership requested peace talks. They expected the usual consortium approach. Lengthy negotiations, compromises, face-saving agreements that would let them rebuild. Admiral met with them personally. She did not negotiate like consortium diplomats. She gave them a choice: surrender completely and disarm forever, or face total destruction. The protested that this was barbaric. Admiral reminded them that they had burned 15 worlds. Millions of innocent beings had died. She gave them 24 hours to decide. They surrendered. The war ended in 8 months. The consortium could not believe it. Conflicts that would have dragged on for decades through diplomatic channels had been resolved with decisive force. They were defeated utterly. They would never threaten galactic peace again. Admiral addressed the Council one final time. She explained the human philosophy of war. Humans hated conflict. They genuinely preferred peace. But when peace failed, humans believed in ending wars quickly and completely. Half measures only prolonged suffering. Total victory prevented future conflicts. She also made humanity's position clear. The Dark Fleet would return to human space. It would remain hidden until needed again. Humanity would continue to be a peaceful member of the consortium. They would follow laws and respect diplomatic processes, but if another threat emerged, humans would be ready. Some council members called for sanctions against humanity. They argued that a species with such military capability was a threat to galactic stability. Others defended humanity. The humans had saved the consortium from destruction. Their methods were harsh but effective. Ambassador spoke on humanity's behalf. She had watched her nearly burn. She had seen the consortium's peaceful methods fail against determined aggressors. She argued that humanity represented something the galaxy needed, a guardian species willing to do what others could not. The Council eventually accepted humanity as full members. They created new protocols for human involvement in security matters. The Dark Fleet became a deterrent known throughout the galaxy. No species wanted to test whether the stories were true. Years later, historians would study this period carefully. They called it the wake-up call. The galaxy had grown complacent in its peace. They had forgotten that some threats could not be negotiated away. Humanity reminded them of an uncomfortable truth. Peace was precious, but it required protection. Admiral retired to a quiet colony world. She wrote her memoirs and taught strategy at the consortium's new military academy. Young officers from dozens of species came to learn from her. She always started her classes with the same lesson. The best warriors are those who hope they never have to fight. They prepare for war so thoroughly that enemies choose peace instead. But if war comes, they finish it quickly. They do not let it drag on. They do not let it spread. They end it. The galaxy had changed forever. The consortium remained committed to peace, but they understood its limits now. They created a joint defense force trained by human instructors. They built monitoring stations to detect threats early. They prepared for dangers that might come. Humanity continued to explore and trade and share their culture. Most aliens who met humans found them friendly and warm. They loved human music and stories. They admired human determination. But they also noticed something in human eyes, a depth that spoke of old pain and hard lessons. Humans had crawled out of darkness through centuries of struggle. They had nearly destroyed themselves many times. They had learned the cost of conflict and the value of peace. This made them ideal guardians. They would never choose war lightly, but they would never hesitate when war was necessary. The Dark Fleet remained hidden in human space, waiting. Its crews trained constantly, hoping they would never be needed. That hope was genuine, but the preparation was real too. Humanity had promised to protect galactic peace, and they meant to keep that promise. The galaxy slept more safely knowing that somewhere in the darkness, human ships stood ready. The predators who had become peaceful remembered how to hunt, and the hunt would only begin if peace was threatened again. Until then, humanity smiled and traded and made friends across the stars. But every species knew the truth now. Behind the friendly faces and beautiful art, humans carried steel in their hearts. Peace was their first choice. It was not their only capability. The Dark Fleet proved that some species remembered what others had forgotten. Sometimes peace needs warriors who pray their skills are never needed. Humanity was happy to be those warriors. They hoped the galaxy would never see the Dark Fleet again. They prepared constantly in case that hope failed. That was the human way. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and if the worst comes, end it fast.